on each finger?
3.
Your joint is what makes your fingers bend. You should have 3 joints on your 4 fingers and 2 joints on your thumb. Correct?
Yes.
How much is that?
7.
That's 14 on each hand, right? The Hebrew word for hand is yad. When you want to say hand in Hebrew, you say yad. You spell yod, dalet in Hebrew, or if we're speaking English, we would say Y-A-D. But the idea again is, phonetically, it's yad. All right? Here's how deep the science is with Hebrew language. What Hebrew does is, when we name something in Hebrew, we are identifying with the essence of that thing we're naming. For instance, when you look at the English word dog, why do they call a dog a dog? What does the D mean? What does the O mean? What does the G mean? If I was to go around this room right now and I ask you, what does the letter A mean? What does the letter B mean?
A means the beginning, I guess, to put it on.
Literally, the letter, what does it mean? A. It has no meaning in English.
But in other languages,
In other languages,
like an Arabic.
so I ask you, if in Arabic, Arabic is very similar to Hebrew, by the way. We say aleph, they also say aleph. So what does aleph mean?
The beginning,
No.
basically.
It's the first letter, so you're right in a sense. I don't want to take full credit from you, you're right in a sense. But it doesn't literally mean letter. It's the first, so I can see how you get beginning. I get that. But aleph literally means in Hebrew to teach. It's how we say teach in Hebrew. The word beit is the Hebrew word for house. The Hebrew word gimel is where we get a camel from. In the East, they call it a gamel. You know that parrot that we all laugh about on the Fruit Loops box, toucan? That's how you say parrot in Hebrew, toucan. When we name something in Hebrew, we are identifying with the essence. What is water? H2O, right? 1 part hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen, correct? In Hebrew, H2O, or water, is mayim, and it conveys the same thought. You spell mayim in Hebrew, mem, yod, mem. The first mem literally means water, the yod is hydrogen, and the last mem is water. 2 parts water, 1 part hydrogen.
Interesting.
So don't play with Hebrew. It's a very powerful language. Anybody come around and tell you that the Torah is a joke, I'm going to show you a little something tonight that's going to make them look very foolish. So again, your hand has 14 joints, right? On one. So if you hold up the second one, it's going to be the same, right? 14 and 14 is what?
28.
28. When God created the heavens and the earth, in the book of Isaiah, he says, I created the heavens and the earth, I the Lord, with my 2 hands. Each of your hand has 14 joints, right? 28. His 2 hands. How did God create the world? As Jews, we like to get deep, or as Israelites, we like to get deep. We say that God created the universe or the world as we know it with the Torah. What does that mean? Come on. Thou shalt not murder is the foundation of the universe? Well, according to Proverbs chapter 10, verse 25, it is. King Solomon, or Melech Shlomo, said in the book of Mishli, or Proverbs, in the 10th chapter, the 25th verse, he says, Zadik Yesod Olam. Righteousness is the foundation of the universe. You want to talk about energy? And positive energy? Righteousness is the foundation of the universe. The very first letter in the Torah alludes to the idea of wisdom. And I'll prove it to you. The word Bereshit in Hebrew is related to the Hebrew word for wisdom. What do you mean by that? Again, the first letter is beit, which means in or with. So in Hebrew, we get deep. When you literally read this in Hebrew, the correct rendering is not in the beginning. If you pay attention to Hebrew, you'll understand that this vowel, a zere, makes it with, not in. When we want to say in Hebrew, the vowel that we would put under it is what's called a chamatz. And that would make it in. But if you look at it here, it's a zere. That means that the verse literally is saying with beginning. But what does that mean? Because if we read it like that, it obviously wouldn't make sense, would it? Would it make sense that the Torah says, with the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth? Until we use the Torah and we line it up and we get what's known as a panoramic view of it. We take all the books of the Torah, we stretch it out for a nice panoramic view. That way we can synthesize all those thoughts and understand the whole, right? When we look at the Torah from that point of view, here's the first thing that we're going to see. In the book of Proverbs, King Solomon says over 10 times, Reshit Chachma, Reshit Chachma, Reshit Chachma, Reshit Chachma. In the beginning is wisdom. In the beginning is wisdom. He always equates wisdom with beginning. Anyone knows anything about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, you know that wisdom is always first. Hence, it's the beginning. So when we read Bereshit on an esoteric level, we don't read it as in the beginning. We read it as with wisdom. So with wisdom, God created the heavens and the earth. But what is wisdom? The Hebrew word for wisdom is chokhmah, spelled in Hebrew chet, mem, the Hebrew word for wisdom is chakmah, which is spelled chet, kaf, mem, he. I know most of us here probably don't read Hebrew, so I'll try to make it as discernible as possible, and you will understand what I'm trying to say. The Hebrew word for wisdom, every letter in the Hebrew language has a numerical equivalent. If anyone knows language, you'll know that the English language comes from the Phoenician language, and the Phoenician language is the language of Canaan, which is the language of Hebrew. In the Hebrew alphabet, the first letter is Aleph, which is 1. The second letter is Bet, which is 2. The third letter is Gimel, which is 3. K is 8. Chaf is 20. Mem is 40. And He is 5. So we have 40, we have 20, we have 8, and we have 5. When you do the math, you have 73. Remember, reduce all numbers. 7 plus 3 equals what? 10. So when we say, with wisdom God created the heavens and earth, in the Hebrew way of thinking, what is our wisdom? The 10 Commandments. In the passage of the 10 Commandments, let's get deep for a second. I heard the brother back there say 613. Everybody knows there's 613 laws in the Torah, right? 6 plus 1 is what? 7. 7 plus 3 is what? 10. In the passage of the 10 Commandments, guess what? In the original Hebrew, there's 613 letters. Anybody know that? I'm sure not. But the Torah is a joke, right? In Hebrew, we also have something called full gematria. And let me explain what that means. What I just gave you was reduced gematria. I took the numeral equivalent of the consonant, and I wrote it out, and I added the sum, and I gave you the equivalent. What I'm going to do now is spell out each individual letter in Hebrew in full. I'll explain what I mean. This is the Hebrew letter Chet. It's the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. When you want to write it as a word, you would spell it like this. Chet, which is 8, 10, 400, or 418. Let's keep that number in mind. I'll end with this thought, by the way, because I know that I'm running out of time. Chaf, which is the second letter, is spelled in Hebrew. Chaf, Peh, which is 20, and 80, which is 100. The Hebrew letter Mem is spelled Mem, Yod, Mem, which is 40, 10, 40, which is 90. The last letter is He, which is the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So we don't say, in the beginning God created the heaven and earth. We Israelites, we know Hebrew, which means we'll give you a much more in-depth look at what the Creator is trying to tell us than the guy picking up the 1611 King James Bible is going to do. We're going to tell you, with the Torah, God created the heavens and the earth. Everybody have a good evening.